Hello, I'm Joe from Carême cooking classes, and today we're making crème pâtissière. It's a basic pastry skill which I think you should all learn. So let's do it, eh? Alright, so here we go. Our first thing is to measure out the milk and cream. We want 1 1/3 cups of milk and cream mixed, but we want 2/3 of them to be milk and 1/3 of them to be cream. So we want just under a cup of milk and the rest of it to be cream. It's not the end of the world. You're allowed to make up your own proportions, but if you have it too lean, too low fat, just turn that on, then it will be a bit low fat and a little dull, not rich and creamy. But if you have it too high fat, then the fat will separate out. Trust me, I've done it, and you have to throw it out. I found 2/3, 1/3 to be about right. There you go. That's heating up. If I had a vanilla bean, I would scrape it into it, but I don't have one here, so there you go. And then we want sugar and egg yolks. We want 133 grams of custard sugar. So we measure that out. And we want 4 egg yolks. Sometimes I keep the egg whites, sometimes I throw them out. More often I throw them out, to be honest. I don't, the egg yolks have all the lovely fat in them, and most of the flavour really. Egg whites are useful if you make meringue, but I don't really make meringue that much, so not so useful for me. Keeping an eye on the milk and cream, because if that burns, milk and cream can burn. If it burns, you're in trouble. You can double this recipe, but don't make it any bigger than that. Trust me, I've done that, and it will stick and burn the whole lot. I mean, not now, but when you're cooking the whole lot together, it doesn't end well. You know how some stories don't end well? That one doesn't end well. You can feel it coming on. Oh dear, you think. Disaster, you think. And sure enough, disaster ensues. Now, I want to whisk the egg yolks and sugar. I want them to be thick and pale. Bit of brute force first involved here. You can use an electric mixer, of course, but you have to justify eating the thing, so. Getting there. Not thick enough for my liking. And then we are going to mix in a small amount of flour. Now, I've got some flour somewhere, yes. Oh, this whisk is a bit dicey. Yep, getting there. I mean, it doesn't have to be. Ah, yes, heating up. We want it to be boiling, really. Getting there, getting there. Here we go, that'll do them. We want 3 tablespoons of flour for this one, which I'm using as an approximation of this one. There's 3 tablespoons of flour, we mix that in. We didn't whisk that up with, we didn't beat that like crazy because, of course, if you beat anything with flour, you develop gluten and that's the end of the world. We wait for the milk and cream to come to the boil, which it just about is. And then we're going to mix a little bit of the milk and cream into the egg yolk, because this won't mix nicely into that because it's too thick. But if you mix a bit of the milk into the egg yolk, you'll thin it down nicely, and it will mix nicely back into there. You don't have to measure it, just a bit. Tum, come along. Oh, nearly. Yes, there we go. I can see bubbles in it, so I'm going to go. I wanted just a slosh of this in here. I'll take that off there and mix that to thin it down nicely. And then this can go back in here. See, it's quite thin now. Now here's where it's easy, because you just got to bring it to the boil and boil it for a minute. This is the one which is not crème anglaise. Crème anglaise is the one which is very similar, but doesn't have flour in it, and you have to be more careful with it. With that one, you have to bring it to below the boil. Have to bring it to like 85 degrees. This one, you want it to boil to cook the flour a bit. Crème anglaise, you have to watch like a hawk. This one you have to just let boil, which is quite straightforward. But the thing about this one is that it does tend to go a bit lumpy before it thickens, so do not be alarmed. Tum once again. But honestly, and then it's done. This is a basic thing that pastry chefs would have in the kitchen, would have in the fridge. As a matter of course, they'd have different flavoured ones, sometimes different thicknesses, different richnesses, and you can thin it with, when it's cold, you can mix it with whipped cream and make fillings. You can use it by itself as a filling. It's quite versatile. I mean, I use it for the brioche, but I use it for lots of other things too. Oh, look, and we're starting to get lumpy bits, and we just stir it. What we're looking for is rotorua, the boiling mud. Yeah, just keep stirring, and you should get up. It's a very thick custard. It's still eggy, but it's not. Some people also make this with corn flour instead of plain flour. Also a legitimate way of doing it. And here we go. He's nearly boiling. Well, some of it he's starting to boil. Smells of eggy richness. Always a good sign. Yeah. And not lumpy. Is he boiling? Do we have rotorua? Not quite. Oh, rotorua. I see rotorua. Okay, just give him a minute to cook off the flour a bit. And he's done. For most things, you cool it off. Something like this is quite perishable, of course, so you want to be careful, don't keep it too long in the fridge. And something like this will also pick up taint in the fridge, so cover it. Definite rotorua, boiled for a minute, done. There we go. Ha! This was not too tricky. I'm going to put them on a piece of baking paper because I want it flat. Long story, but you can just put it in a bowl and cover it. That would be a good way of keeping it, of course, because that would it would be easy to cover. But I want it, for the purpose for which I'm going to use it, I want it flat, like that. So, and that, my friends, is how we do the crème pâtissière. Yeah, well done us. Okay, thanks for watching. See you soon.